So this is going to be the last video of today, and this video is going to be about my experience with the Alpha Centauri species. So the Alpha Centauri are a species of, I would say that they're aquatic, sometimes humanoid, but they can shift. So they tend to have aquatic faces, but their bodies are very much so humanoid. Uh, the particular ones that I had an experience with were very feminine in nature, but their faces were literally, I would say, fish heads. So this really started when I was in a dream and I was experiencing some very strange freaking happenings that, led me into communication with these beings. So I was in a room and walking around, and there were about five of these weird looking women with very big eyes. I mean, really, really, really big, just pitch black eyes, that weren't that tall. I would say they're probably about 4 to about 5 foot, no taller than 5 feet. They had really long hair, and as I said, their eyes were pitch black. Their hairs were different colors. They kept speaking really slow when they talked to me, and they kept complimenting me on my eyes, which I found very weird. Now, there are a lot of entities when you are in the astral realm or when you're in different dimensions that will manipulate you with the energy of lust. So when someone is coming at you with energy of lust or trying to sexually manipulate you within these realms, this is a very telltale sign. So I found it rather odd that they kept mentioning my eyes and my nose throughout the entire time that I was contacting, in contact with them. Mind you, I did not summon them. I did not contact them. I was just, I was just sleeping. I was just in a dream. I wasn't even intentionally astral traveling. So what this brought forward was this an experience with these women in this particular species. I had not known anything about them, as I said in my previous videos. When I have these contacts with these specific groups or species of beings, I don't really know about them. I'm just going about things as I usually do. It might be because at that time when I was practicing so much into these things, my light was probably a little too bright. I feel more so now I've dimmed it a lot, so there's not that many beings that are taking interest in me anymore, which is a very good thing because I feel like I'm a lot more safe and a lot more grounded. Whereas in those times, I felt like I was always out of body. I was always being summoned. I was always in another realm. I was always ending up being interrogated, getting information pulled out of myself. There were always attempts of manipulation to try and get information from me about specific places that I have been and allies that I have. And so moving forward in this story, I end up in this strange room that has a window that's see-through, but on the outside there is just a view of a lot of greenery. So the ground, there's a lot of grass, and then there's a lot of greenery in the back. This window was a huge window, almost as if you're in one of the condos that just have a really big glass window. So more like a condo, or even those living rooms that are in the mansions that have the big windows that have no doors on them, that continue for probably about like 20 feet. So probably a 20 by maybe a 20. And in this room, I I started to feel weird sensations from these women as they kept looking at me. This was another room. I forgot to mention this was another room, and in this other room, that's where the glass, where that glass window was. I look around myself every time I have experiences. I always make sure that I'm looking around, and the reason why I look around is to try and find out whether or not this is something that is actually real or this is something that is being projected to me with illusional technology. Because ever since I had that experience with the grays, I had practiced so much more on being lucid because of the fact that that's something that could easily happen, and you could be, I could be put in danger and my life could even be jeopardized. And so my interaction with these women, they approached me, all five of them. They had different forms now. They were a little bit taller. This is when they were probably about 5 foot. They had a lot of tattoos over their bodies. There were a lot of sigils on their bodies, covering their faces, covering everything. They had really, really big lips. Their bodies were very, very curvy, almost like Latino women or African, African women, very curvy. And it was, at first it was something that was alluring to me, but myself, I'm used to seeing things that are like that, so it wasn't anything that was new to me. I will admit it was something that drew me in slightly, but I did not go into thinking into why I was feeling that way. What I started to do was, in my head, because I go into my head when this kind of stuff starts to happen, to scan the environment. And when I scanned the environment, I realized that these women were actually trying to poison me. These were beings that were sent to me by someone who was attacking me at that time because of the place that I was at. And that's a long story that I might tell on this channel, but I'm not exactly sure yet. Well, I will keep you updated in the future, though, if it does come out. So these women, long story short, while I was in this room, they poisoned me. And my blood was basically poisoned when I was in this room. I was able to think and kind of slightly fight off the energy of the lust that they were projecting to me. They made me go so much into the lust and the energy that it overpowered me to the point where I just sat down with them. They were caressing and touching my skin and speaking to me, whispering. They had very soft voices, and they were strange. They were strange, to say the least, because they had fish heads. They literally had heads of fish with bodies of women. So you can understand how that causes confusion. Once that experience was over, because they talked to me for a while until I snapped out of it, I came back into my body. And once I was back in my body, I woke up and I had urinated on myself. And I I didn't really know what to think of that. I also, when I woke up and urinated, I was also speaking, non-human dialect as a defense mechanism to ward off this energy. My stomach started hurting. I started feeling really woozy. I was getting very dizzy. And then I realized at that moment that I was being attacked. So I had to reach out to one of my friends who was able to help me. But that didn't happen for, about another 2 weeks. Even then, after I talked to him, it took, for me to be able to get back to a point where I would have the time to be able to talk to him. I would say about another 6 to 7 months until I could actually get them exorcised out of my energy field. And also, what was I going to say? Really, and also get my energy field cleared. So that was my experience with the Alpha Centauri. After that, I asked my friend about them. He had run-ins with them. He knew, a little bit about who they were. Even after I talked to him, I did my research just to make sure I felt that was the truth as to what he was saying too. So once everything was said and done, I was a little in shock. I was told by my friend that when I was approached by them and talking to these women, they were in fact trying to uh, siphon energy from me. And when I did not budge, they poisoned my bloodstream with a specific kind of energy that was not even from this world. So I had to basically get astral surgery and get a huge exorcism cleansing from, from my friend Tobias. And after that, everything was okay. And after that experience, once they were cleared out, I've never had an experience with them after that, which I'm pretty happy about because that was pretty nasty. And it was very eye opening.